Hello, and welcome to my first super long tutorial on something, this time camera shake, and we're going to be talking about how you can use presets to get really cool realistic camera shake. We're also going to be talking about how to make your own presets, and we're going to get a bit into the deep end. Actually, we're going to go way into the deep end, learning how we can create camera shake presets in After Effects, transition them to Premiere, all the various effects and ways to create camera shake in Premiere. Yeah, so let's start off by, like why camera shake. You probably clicked this video for a reason. Basically, it helps add entertainment value and also realism for special effects. Very boring, tripod shot of me just sitting here, shot of me sitting here with no camera shake. It's, half-assed realistic, and you add camera shake, and all of a sudden it sort of tricks the eye into thinking the person is really there. So it's a really useful tool in special effects. Obviously, that's not the most exciting special effect, but I use it in all my a lot of my special effects videos, and it's a great effect, very powerful effect to add realism. So first off, how do you get camera shake in Premiere? Well, there's presets that are already out there for free, mostly made by someone named Jarle. I'll be showing you his website in a second. And I've also come out with my own presets. And if you would be a patron, you can see all the presets that I make and download them on my Patreon page. And, hell, it's $4. If you want to just spend $4 and then dip out, okay. But I'm going to be making more of these videos, and I really appreciate it if you hang out. But anyway, I think my presets are a little better than Jarle's presets. I think his are fantastic, but there's reasons why my presets are more utilitarian. We'll be talking about that. But yeah, if you want to just sort of, not watch this full-length video, you can either download Jarle's presets, which we'll be showing you right now, or check out my Patreon and check them out there and get your presets that I made. Or you can watch the rest of this video and make your own presets. So anyway, Jarle's presets. Jarle is a filmmaker. He's an editor. He did Deadpool, which is pretty amazing, and he also puts out camera shake presets that he makes for Premiere for free. And you can just download them. Click the download link. They are a PRF PSET file. Now, PRF PSET files are the universal Premiere preset file that you can get from all sorts of websites like motionarray.com. They're super, super convenient. And once you download them, you can install them by going to the effects panel in Premiere. By the way, I have Premiere on the left and After Effects on the right for good reasons that we'll figure out in a second. And you can just right-click in the effects area and go to Import Preset. You install that PRF PSET file, and it can actually give you multiple presets in preset folders. It's really awesome. It's one of my favorite things about Premiere. But here I have the Jarle's presets installed already. Jarle's super cool for giving these away for free. He has them organized pretty well. And it's simply just drag and drop. So if I grab and drag a preset onto a clip, let's try a different one. Here we go. Drag and drop. Bam. This clip has camera shake now. One of the coolest things about Jarle's presets is that they are actually based on real camera shake. So it's very, very realistic. Mine are not based in the same way. But anyway. So, cool. Done, right? You can turn off this video. Not necessarily. What are my issues with the Jarle preset camera shake for Premiere? It really stems from the fact that Jarle's preset uses the motion group in Premiere. The motion property group in Premiere, which is the default group that you use to resize clips and stuff like that. The reason this is a problem, first of all, is what happens if you get into a situation where you have a clip that you added to your project that was a different size in its default situation. Sorry, let me just delete some of these little effects here that I've been playing with. Sometimes in Premiere you have to deselect a clip, reselect it, and then it will listen to you. Okay, sorry. I've recorded this a million times. But let's say you bring in a clip that naturally doesn't fit the screen, and you scale it up to fit the screen using the motion group. And then you add your preset, and it brings it back down to its original size. And this is because presets, when you add them to a property group, will change all those properties to be the preset properties. And the preset comes with a scale of only 105, which assumes that you only need a 105% scale to compensate for the slight movement that you would otherwise have, black bars around the edges. I can show you what that would look like, the little black bars around the edges if you didn't scale up 105%. And that's cool if your clip at 100% fills the screen. But if at 100%, this is a 1920 by 1080 video, at 100%, it is, way too small. And even at 105, it's way too small. So then I would go back and I could manually scale this clip up. And that is one way to solve that problem that comes with the Jarle preset if you work with clips that don't fit the screen by natively. Your camera shake is going to be more exaggerated. That's one issue that happens with this. And then the other thing that I have an issue with is that, you'll have to change this with every clip. Unless, let's talk real quick about other options you have for dealing with sizing problems. Any clip, you can right-click on it and go to Set to Frame Size or Scale to Frame Size. Set to Frame Size is my personal favorite for most situations because this will literally just change your scale to be what it needs to be to fill the screen. And I can see 200% scale is literally a change from 1080 to 4K. Great, but watch what happens when I do this. It knocks out your preset. Obviously problematic. Now there's another method that is in Premiere. This is the scale to frame size method, and this is designed to work better with presets. Not only does it not affect your preset, it doesn't affect your motion group at all technically, and so my scale stays the same. It's sort of a secret scale that happens in the behind the scenes, basically scales your clip to the native sequence size, and that solves our problem. Using the scale to frame size feature with Jarle's preset can solve the scaling problem. One small issue is that then you don't see the scale, so you might think, well, why is this pixelated and blurry? Oh yeah, that's right, I think I did a scale to frame size. You have to right click to even see if you have it checked or not. So just not being able to see the scale property is kind of something that I don't like. And then there's another really big problem. I will often, in my videos, I will go through my video and I will actually intentionally add some amount of extra positioning. I'll click the motion group and I will, you click the motion group to get the bounding box on the outside, and then I can digitally zoom in and crop and go for close-ups and stuff. That's like the whole reason I film in 4K, so I can do close-ups. And that does not work with the Jarle preset. So if I add the Jarle preset, it is not only going to resize it, it's also going to give it these very distinct position keyframes. And if I try to, after the fact, make a change, then I'm really screwing things up because I'm changing a property that has keyframes, and then you'll just get this one glitch keyframe where it just suddenly moves. So the problem here is that if you want to have custom control over the scale or position using the motion group, it doesn't work well with Jarle's preset, which also uses the motion group. Therein lies the problem, and this is the biggest solution. The solution really lies in an effect that lives in Premiere and After Effects called the transform effect. It is one of the most badass effects in Premiere. I use it all the time, and it's way underestimated. People don't talk about it enough, I think. Or I don't know how many tutorials you guys watch. But the transform effect, if you look for it in the effects panel, when applied to a clip, let's just reset all the stuff on this clip. When you apply the transform effect to the clip, it gives you a secondary set of transform properties. It's basically the same things as the motion properties. They use the word transform to help distinguish it. But there it is. Now we have another way to change the scale and position separate from the motion group. Okay? This is the key. This is the key to make all this much more utilitarian, in my opinion. Now there's two ways that we can use this combined motion and transform group. One way would be to use the Jarle preset and put it on a clip and let it do the shaking on the motion properties, and then you can use the transform properties to do your scaling, which has the added benefit of being able to see how much I'm scaling, right? So not a mystery with the scale to frame size option. And I can also reposition if I want to do some framing, and it does not mess with my Jarle preset, and I get camera shake and digital cropping and positioning. Seems like an awesome solution, and it's not a bad solution. This is one way you could go about it. But specifically here we are looking at green screen, and that's another reason why, or another place where the motion property set just won't work for our camera shake, but the transform effect will. So let's say you have a green screen situation. I've obviously put the same clip, keyed it out, done a little color correction, and for this situation, you have to have a clip over another clip. And if I were to add the Jarle preset, no surprise, to just the top clip, then I would shake around, but the background wouldn't, right? So how do we solve that problem? One solution is the nesting workflow. You can select multiple clips, right-click, and then nest them. They turn into a subsequence, essentially, a nested sequence. And then I could add the camera shake, and there we go. So that would be one workflow. But personally, I always try to avoid nesting whenever possible. It's a really powerful workflow, but I like to be able to see all my clips for as long as possible so I could edit them, retime them, make changes. And so another solution, I think a more elegant solution in my opinion, is to use an adjustment layer. If you put an adjustment layer over any set of clips that fall underneath, anything you put on the adjustment layer will affect the ones below. And this is often used for things like color correction. If you want to color correct your entire scene together, you can do that. This is an awesome still frame. The other thing that we can use them for is camera shake, using not the motion group, because if I use the motion group on my adjustment layer, let's say I do, if I use the motion group on my adjustment layer, it just changes the size of the adjustment layer. It's not going to transmit the motion properties of the adjustment layer to anything below it. Just to sort of show you more clearly what this means is like changing the motion group on the adjustment layer just changes the size of the adjustment layer. So that's not cool. So if we want to get camera shake on an adjustment layer, we have no option but to use the transform effect. And that's the real trick. So if I grab get out of here, let me color, effects, transform. Okay, if I get the transform effect and I put it on my adjustment layer, now I can use the transform effect, and any changes that I make to the transform effect will actually transmit down the line. So I can do digital close-ups and reposition, and obviously it affects me and the background. I find this a really convenient workflow. If you're just looking to use this for close-up and wide shot changes, you can just like cut up your adjustment layer, and anytime there is an adjustment layer with a transform effect, it's close, and anywhere there isn't, it cuts back to a wide shot. This is a pretty cool workflow. Obviously, multicam editing is a whole nother. There's just a million ways you do this, but I love this idea of using a transform effect on an adjustment layer. So now comes the challenge of trying to get shakiness on the transform effect. And this is where we really fall into the deep end. So if you guys are still with me, you rule. Your first thought might be, oh, cool. What if we like grab the Jarle preset, drag it onto, let's just say the adjustment layer, see those keyframes over here, and what if we could just copy and paste them? Control C, click transform, Control V. Not happening. What if I click position and Control C, Control V, still not happening? No. Premiere will not let you copy keyframes from the motion group to the transform group for whatever stupid reason. Hey, Premiere, you want to fix that? And all the other things I ask you to fix? Cool. Not happening. So I have had to find a very interesting workaround. And what was I going to say? Yeah, if this is the type of thing that would work in After Effects. You can copy and paste all kinds of properties in After Effects. And we're going to start talking about After Effects because this is also how Jarle initially created the motion preset for his camera shake. He did not go through and manually keyframe every little shake. There's way easier ways to do that in After Effects, to automate the shake. So let's go back into After Effects. Here I am in After Effects. I have the same clip. And to be perfectly honest, what he did, he's a really, really sweet guy. And I emailed him and he told me how he did it. He used After Effects and he actually took real footage of camera shaking and he tracked the movement and took those keyframes and added them to a clip in After Effects. I am not going to do that. I'm going to be a little bit lazier here, but the core principles will still be the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add expressions to the position and maybe a little to the rotation. You can add expressions by holding Alt and clicking on a property, and you open up these little windows. And the coolest expression for making something shake or wiggle is typing wiggle, open parentheses. The first number is going to be the frequency, so how many wiggles. Let's type 1, and then how much it will wiggle by. And I found about maybe 15 or 20 pixels is a good amount of wiggle for typical 4K footage. And if I check out this video, you can see if I, let's just preview this in After Effects. How much wiggle is that? Sorry, let me just do a little RAM preview. Right, so you're watching this, and all right, that's like a fair amount of wiggle. Maybe a little faster, maybe 2,20. And so it's wiggling. And I can give it also a wiggle on rotation, wiggle, open parentheses, 2, very small amount of rotation, like 0.5 degrees. And now my video kind of moves around and shakes a little bit. Now, obviously, I want to add a, not expression, but a 105% scale. And now that gets rid of the black lines around the edge. And there, cool. I'm in After Effects, and I have a fairly realistic camera shake. Sweet. Now, how could we get that to Premiere? Before we get this over to Premiere, though, we need to think about something. The transform properties in After Effects, this is where linguistically this is going to become a nightmare. Just because of Adobe, but it's the way it is. The transform effect in After Effects, the transform property set in After Effects is equivalent to the motion set in Premiere. It's just literally the way it's named in After Effects. And so if I were to translate the transform animation I have in After Effects to the motion attribute animation I have in Premiere, it would not give us the capability of putting it on a transform effect and putting it on an adjustment layer. So check this out. There is still a transform effect in After Effects. Yes, same exact effect. The transform effect that I've added to my adjustment layer in Premiere. Just get it again. Same exact effect here and here. Nope, not here. Haha, very confusing. So I'm going to, first of all, get rid of my expressions on the transform effect. I'm going to reset, transform properties. So there's no animation on here now. I'm opening the effects group here in After Effects, opening the transform group, transform effect in After Effects and the transform effect in Premiere. These are the same thing. And if I could get this one to work in After Effects, I can actually get it to work in Premiere. So here I go. I add the expressions here. Let's see if I can get those expressions now. I'm just going to type them again. Wiggle 2, 20. And then on the rotation, I do another wiggle. I think it was 2, 0.5. And you guys can obviously tweak these values on your own. And 105 scale. Oops. 105 scale here. And I get camera shake using the transform effect in After Effects. God, we're so close, or at least it seems like we are. How do I get something from After Effects into Premiere? This is a wild, also probably not very discussed conversation. Wouldn't it be cool if I could just copy and paste? Wouldn't that be awesome? Control-C to copy transform effect in After Effects and then paste here in Premiere. Not happening. Not happening. Again, Premiere and Adobe, like, you're so close. Anyway, that doesn't work. Weirdly, and this is something Jarle, I think, figured out and taught me. Weirdly, you can't copy properties or effects from After Effects to Premiere, but you can copy entire clips. That's just, like, weird. Seems like it would be harder to do this translation, but you can do it. So if I copy the entire clip in After Effects and I paste it into Premiere, here it is. And check this out. It has the frickin' transform effect. I should also, let's back up real quick. The transform effect does not have keyframes because the transform effect here doesn't have keyframes, and expressions don't work in Premiere. So what you'll have to do, first of all, is you'll have to right-click any expression property and go to Keyframe Assistant, convert expression to keyframes. And that will take a second and convert those to keyframes. Keyframe Assistant, convert to keyframes. And now I can copy this clip and put it in After Effects. And now I do have keyframes. Let's click on the clip again. And there we go. Check it out. I've got keyframes on my transform effect in Premiere. And we would look like we have camera shake, but if you watch this, unfortunately, I have more of a camera rotation, but the position is not working. And the reason is, if I look at the property here, this number is wrong. It's like 0.5, not the same as it is here in After Effects. Why is this only 0.5? And it seems like it's not even changing if I play the video or scrub the playhead. This number doesn't appear to change. Guys, we're super, super close. This is how I felt when I first thought I was like a genius for like figuring out how to get a wiggle into After Effects as a transform property, a transform effect. But we're actually kind of really far away. We're like hundreds of headache-inducing hours of my trying to figure this out away from the solution. I'm going to condense this down as much as I can into like just a few minutes to explain what's going on here and how to solve this problem. But it all comes down to what happens when you copy and paste any effect or the transform effect anywhere inside of Premiere. To help explain this problem, let me give you an example of what would happen if I have my where's my lion? Where's my little lion video? All right. So back here, I'm going to get rid of anything on my clips. Let's get rid of all the hoopla. Okay, so I have me, no effects, my natural self. Ooh, dead air. Shh, keep talking, Alex. Okay, transform effect. If I put the transform effect on this clip and I, let's say, gave it a 150% scale, or sorry, gave it a 100 pixel push on the x-axis. So instead of 1920, I'll do 2020. Okay, so it's pushed 100 pixels to the right. If I copy this transform effect and I put it on this smaller clip and I paste, you'll see it doesn't show a absolute value here. The transform property is not 220, it's 1010. It's actually compensating and trying to translate the amount of change based on the size difference. So it's actually, when you paste the transform effect, it translates any position properties, translates them through the pixel value of your source clip that you're adding it to. That turns out to be the solution, or the reason why this happens, and pretty much my guess as to why going from After Effects to Premiere, it just completely glitches. Basically, when you copy a clip from After Effects to Premiere with a transform effect on it, Premiere just freaks out and thinks that the clip that you have just pasted into the program has a pixel value resolution of 1 pixel. And that is why it gives you 0.5 as the center and anchor point, because it's about half, it's like the center of a 1 pixel video. And it screws everything up. Now, if you want to go really in depth into this like crazy math and how I figured this out, I actually posted this on an Adobe forum. I'll put a link in the chat box. But there's some crazy math that I figured out to make this work. Basically, if it thinks it's a 1 pixel video and it's actually a like 4K video, what you have to do is get the ratio. You divide 1 by 3840 and you get the conversion amount. So if you divide 1 by, if you divide 1 pixel, and this is where I get out that calculator, you guys are total soldiers if you're still hanging out here. If I take 1, which is what it thinks it is, and divide it by 3840, which is the width of 4K, I get an insanely tiny number. And then I can multiply this by the amount of change that I actually want it to wiggle. So if I want it to wiggle by 20 pixels, I take this crazy number and multiply by 20, and I get a much more manageable number. This is the amount that I actually want this to wiggle in After Effects so that when I translate it back into Premiere, it compensates and works correctly. Yes, I know. It's insane. I'm just partially putting this out there so it is out there in case anyone's trying to untangle this as well. But here we go. Let's try this again. So I'm on the transform effect in After Effects, and I'm going to change the wiggle amount to... Oh, sorry. You also need to train After Effects into actually putting the transform effect on a 1-pixel video. This is kind of insane. It doesn't care about the composition size. So if I make a new composition, I can make the composition 100 pixels. It doesn't matter. You do want to make sure the duration, though, is nice and long. When you're saving presets, I always try to go way overkill. As we noticed with Jarle's preset, it doesn't necessarily have keyframes for very long. It's like 30 seconds. I'm going to make mine like stupid long. So I'm going to make a new solid in After Effects, and I'm going to make it 1 pixel by 1 pixel. I'm not going to worry about a name. And there it is. And then I am going to give it the transform effect, not the transform default property set, the transform effect. And then I am going to give it a position wiggle. Doesn't care about the frequency, so 2, comma, and then I'm going to type 0.0052. That's how much I want it to wiggle by. Also doesn't care about scale, so if I give it 105% scale, that's still going to translate to 105% scale in Premiere. And as for rotation, also doesn't care. There's no real conversion that needs to happen here, so I'll do 2, comma, 0.5. We can't forget we also have to right-click and go to Keyframe Assistant and convert our expressions to keyframes so that they actually show up in Premiere, because expressions on their own will not do that. Come on, rotation. There we go. Then I'm going to take my 1-pixel solid, copy it from After Effects, paste it into Premiere, and there it is. Or it's way in there. It's a tiny little dot jostling around. And obviously, that's not done yet. And we're also going to notice that the transform property has these still strange small numbers. But here's the key. Everything is correct relative to the size of this clip. And when you copy and paste effects from one clip to another, the transform effect specifically, it will carry the size difference conversion between clip sizes to translate also to the movement difference on the transform property. In other words, if we copy the effect from the transform effect from this little tiny solid to literally any clip that doesn't have anything on it, and I paste, it will correctly scale up those movements in terms of the position and scaling and rotation, but the amount of jostle will also correctly scale. And check it out, guys. We have finally got realistic camera shake on a transform effect in Premiere, created from automatic expression-based keyframes in After Effects. Take that, Premiere's weird glitchy problems. I think I've untangled them. And so now we can use this. I can copy this and put it on an adjustment layer, right? That was the whole key to this whole lesson, is I can now take that and paste it on adjustment layer, and bam, I've got realistic camera shake to make my foreground and background move together. No nesting necessary, super simple, and yeah, you guys could make as many of these as you want. You could tweak the values in After Effects to be more wiggly, more shaky, whatever. And then it comes to this time to save the preset. This is what I did to make my preset. You just right click on it and go to Save Preset. You need to make sure that you set anchor to endpoint. Scale does not have to do with sizing. Scale means that the duration difference between the clip that you created the preset on and a clip that you're pasting it on, the duration difference will equate to a scaled speed difference on the animation. So if you made an animation that was 1 second long and on a 1 second clip, and you put it on a 10-second clip, that 1 second animation would turn into a 10-second animation. In other words, the scale type will change speed. We don't want that. So we're going to do anchor to endpoint, and you could call it whatever you want. You could call it camera shake transform whatever, and then you press OK, and it will show up in your effects panel under presets, and there it is. And you can make as many of these as you want. The other cool thing about presets, not sure if you know about this, is you can make preset bins by right-clicking. You can make a bin called camera shakes, and then you could put all your camera shakes in there, and you can either send one of these to yourself or your friends by right-clicking and going to export preset, or you can export the entire bin, right-click, export presets. This will save it as a single PRFPSET file, even if it has multiple presets in it, and that is what you can give to your friends. If you guys successfully followed all these steps and made your own transform effect presets, hell yeah, you deserve it. I guess you don't owe me that $4 for downloading mine. But you could still download mine. You could say thanks. I don't know. Well done. Now you can make your own transform presets. There's a really badass effect. So thank you for watching. There's some more that I'd love to blab on about for the next 5 minutes or so if you want to hang out. But that's the trick to make the transform-based camera shake in Premiere from After Effects. Nice job. So quickly, also, you could save these presets in After Effects if you're someone who uses After Effects a lot and you want to just save your transform effect as a preset. It's done a little bit differently in After Effects. You go to the Effects and Presets panel up here in the upper right of After Effects, and you go to the menu, make sure the transform effect in the Effects panel was selected, go to Save Animation Preset. You could call it Camera Shake, and it will show up once you do that in your Animation Presets folder here. It's a lot harder to share these with people. You have to go find the actual place that they exist on your computer, which is in your Adobe Documents User Presets folder. And installing them, you have to put them in that folder. It's clunky. Like, why is it easy in Premiere and annoying in After Effects? Get it on it, Adobe. But yeah, that's another thing you can do. And then the last thing I want to talk about very quick is a little finessing move that I do if you want to put a camera shake on a wide angle shot. Because I found that a camera shake on a wide angle shot looks fake. Because in real wide angle cameras, when things get closer to the edge of the screen, they distort. And this just looks like a flat image. Zoomed in clips, this works great. But a wide angle shot, this looks a little off. And I found an interesting solution to this. In Premiere, you can solve this problem with an effect called lens distortion. Usually used to compensate for wide angle shot distortion. And if you take this lens distortion effect and you put it on another adjustment layer over everything else, I've already done that here, so I'll just show you what that looks like. Drag that, plop it over here. You can go positive or negative, and negative is actually, or sorry, positive will compensate for the distortion, which obviously doesn't work here. So I'm going with a negative distortion. This is increasing the amount of camera distortion. The trick is if you put the distortion above the adjustment layer that has your camera movement, then when the person actually gets close, it's very subtle, but when the person gets closer to the edge of the screen, and I wish my computer's getting a little upset here, but yeah, as the person gets close to the edge of the screen, it looks more like the camera is looking around in a curved world than someone is just sliding the picture around. So I think it looks a lot more realistic. I thought it would be great if we could package these all into one adjustment layer, but it just does not work. I've tried this a million times. If I try putting the if I try taking the lens distortion and putting it on the same adjustment layer that has the camera shake, it looks all right at first, but here's the distinction. This is going to get a little nerdy again. If I put like a grid effect to really show what's going on here, if I have a grid effect on my base clip and I put the lens distortion on the same adjustment layer that has the movement, then when I move the clip, you'll see that the distorted image moves as one block. The center non-distorted section moves over. I don't want that. I want the middle of my screen to always be non-distorted, and I want those lines to move as they get closer to the edge to the distort only on the edges. And that's exactly what happens if you use another adjustment layer over the top of everything else. If I move my position underneath that on the adjustment layer underneath, you'll see that the lines actually do move, but the center lines are always undistorted and the edge lines are always distorted. And that's what makes this work. Now, there is actually an interesting reason why you might want to put another lens distortion effect on your lower adjustment layer, and that is to compensate. So obviously, this can add distortion that you maybe didn't want to be part of your scene. So if you add lens distortion To the lower adjustment layer, this would only be for the purposes of undistorting. So whatever I distorted by on my top one, let's say I'll go crazy here. I do -30 to have it wrap around the world. On the lower one, if I go with +30, it looks not perfect, but a lot more realistic, and yet I still get the really interesting distortion that happens when you get closer to the edge of the screen. So anyway, this is a little tip for wide angle. You can't unfortunately save these 2 adjustment layers as one preset, but you could make a preset called like, you know, save this preset and call it like wide angle shake distort parentheses put on higher adjustment layer. There's no keyframes here. And you could save a preset for your lower one and call it something. You can select both of these properties. That's pretty cool. You can select transform and lens distortion. You can also rename effects, man. By right-clicking on them, I could call it lens distortion. I could say add for wide angle, add negative for wide angle. Oh, sorry, add positive. Add for wide angle if you use upper distortion adjustment layer. And then you could call this whole effect. So I could set this default to none and then just call the entire effect. If I select both of these, right click, save preset, I could call it camera shake with optional distort. God, I am being so perfectionist here, and I am being so appreciative of you guys listening to all this. I hope it's been useful for you. You can do the same thing, by the way, in After Effects that I just showed you about adding optical distortion. You could use something that's called optics compensation. It's the same effect, but you could, back here in After Effects, actually, if you're back in After Effects, then you would just save the default preset. You don't have to do any of that weird scaling conversion, but I would just click transform, save that as a preset, and then I could add an adjustment layer, add optics compensation, and go little, let's see if I can remember which direction. Yeah, no, you just reverse, not negative. You reverse it, get that distortion, and now anything that goes on with the transform, you'll see that I kind of distort as I get near the edge. Ugh. Yeah, and you can save that as a preset. Also, click it, save preset. Anywho, you all have nailed it. Actually, let me just test something. Testing live. If I put the transform and optics compensation in After Effects, can they hang out together? Yes. So in After Effects, they do the correct thing. I can have this transform plus optics compensation as a single preset, and I don't need to have any effects down here on my lower clip. And that way I can select these two, create a preset, save animation preset, and I'll call this camera shake with optional distortion. And yeah. The other weird thing about After Effects presets is that you have to like, actually it's true with Premiere too, but like you have to say what it should go on. Otherwise all presets, text presets, background presets, they all just show up in one list. So I'll just say like, put on adjustment layer. Bam. I'm going to be putting all these presets that I create, I'll be tweaking them, making them look good, and I will be putting them on my Patreon. Anyway, thank you guys so much. Thank you, whoever is out there still watching, thank you so much. Let me know what you're thinking. You're a trooper, and thank you all very much for watching. Alrighty, bye.